Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special edition of the Panjwai podcast. We're going to call this our EOD edition, and it times out pretty perfectly because this week Russ Ho's episode came out with our first EOD tech on the long form of the podcast. So kind of nice to bring some more perspectives in here. We have with us today, Russ will be joining us here in a few minutes. But we have Sean Johnson, who was on Russ's team, one of his technicians, and we have Mario Kovac, who am I saying that right? Kovac or Kovac?
Yeah, Kovac, same thing. Mario, point and grunt, that all works.
There we go. Who was an Air Force EOD tech when we arrived at Spurwingar, and so he'll have to defend himself against the inter-service rivalry by himself today. Mario, I do have to say, my one shining memory of the Air Force EOD guys was when you made us run a 5K like 3 days after we got to the COP, and we were pretty bitter about that.
Yeah, but weren't you guys in a bomb suit?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, no, man, I ain't gonna give him any crap for that because he did it in the suit. So
that's true.
Damn.
That's a sliding scale of misery, I guess. And you guys, I guess you guys were with us a lot longer than I thought you were. I thought you guys left pretty fast, but you guys were there for a couple months, right?
Yeah, so we got into country end of December 2011, and we were one of the, probably 30 person team. And just like Army EOD, we get, pushed out everywhere. And they didn't know where the hell they were going to put us. So we were at this place called FOLAD or SP FOLAD or whatever for probably like 5 days. And that was about to get shut down / overrun. So then we went to Shoja for about a week or 2 weeks, holed up with some other EOD guys until leadership figured out where they were going to put us. And then they put us at Spurwingar. And so I think we got there maybe middle to end of January. And I think we were there until, you guys showed up, I think, in May time frame.
We got there in March, like end of March, middle to end of March.
March.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then,
so, yeah.
Yeah. And then after you guys, we had another EOD team. And then we had Sean. And Sean, you were there with us with Russ, right?
Yep. I was there with Russ and Aaron.
Yep, our 3-man super team. So it was interesting that we had you guys kind of permanently on the COP with us. I'm not, Stuart, you deployed to Afghanistan previously. I'm assuming you did not have an EOD team on your COP in Paktia.
We did not. If we had to call EOD, it would take them a couple hours to get to us. So we consequently never called EOD.
Which is kind of like the running gag against EOD, right? It's like, oh, fuck, we'll just sit here and wait for EOD for 4 hours. So,
but also IEDs were not a threat. Well,
Sure.
Not a big threat up in the mountains. And the only threat was on the KG Pass, like the road. Right. So route clearance would be going through there quite frequently. That was kind of the IED threat. So I'm sure they dealt with it, at a higher level, but at the dismounted level, that wasn't an issue or a threat. So it wasn't really that big.
Sure. So we don't hold it too much against you. That was never really our problem. We knew it was going to take you 4 hours to walk to us if we took 4 hours to walk to the IED that we found. So I think we just kind of got into the habit of not calling, kind of like Stuart said, just like, no, it's just not. We're just going to leave that alone. Mario, did you have any deployments before the 2012?
Yeah, I had a few before that. Balad or Anaconda, as the Army knows it, 06, 07. Baghdad, the Mahmudiya area, 08 to 09. Spent some time in Germany standing up a deployment transition center, helping people come back from combat stateside. And then my 5th and final deployment was the one with you guys in Afghanistan.
Jeez, man. And Sean, you were like most of our guys. This was 2012. You're one and done.
What?
I think we lost him for a sec.
I don't know what's happening with the internet right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Was 2012 your first?
Yeah. Yeah, it was. We actually, my whole company for the most part, aside from team leaders, I think we were all pretty fresh.
Yeah, that was I think it was pretty common in that time. The units that were on, it's just like the way the rotations worked out. I think almost everybody we've talked to, at least 75% of the people, it was their first, and for a lot of them, like their only real combat deployment. I think it was just nature of it, of the timing and stuff. So, just a weird time in the war on terror.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot different than being out in Panjwai was a lot different than all the stories you heard from guys that had like previous deployments and stuff.
Well, and you guys spent a little bit of your deployment somewhere else before you came to us. Like Russ was talking to us a little bit about that in his episode.
Right.
You got out along Route 1, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really talk much about, I guess, stuff. So I guess timeline wise, my memory's pretty bad.
Sure.
But yeah, when Russ first, got to, I think it was Bullard. I think that's what it was called, Bullard or something. Up there in the snow. I was up there with him. It was like my first place we went to. And then after that, I went down to, oh man, I don't even remember the name of it, but we were down there working with
the Romanians.
We did nothing. Like honestly, I literally didn't do anything. It was like the most boring time ever for me. Like we pretty much we had this hard stand building, and we were just basically building up an EOD shop there. Because I think we were the first team to be on that base, like permanently. So that's pretty much what we did. We just built stuff up.
Cool. Well,
after that, and then after that, I went to, I want to say I went to Logman for a bit, and then after that, I think because I wasn't when I initially deployed, I wasn't on Russ's team. I deployed with a different team leader, and then they kind of like did some shifting and stuff. So then I ended up being with Russ and Aaron, which was the best thing that ever happened. It was such a good time working with you guys.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't boring. I can.
No, it was not boring.
So while we wait for Russ, I kind of curious to hear your guys's what your training was like. What the EOD school was like, because it's a combined school, right? All the services go to the same school.
Yep.
So I kind of give you two the floor and kind of let you tell us a little bit about obviously there's stuff you can't tell us, but whatever you can tell us about your EOD training and what it was kind of like to pick that MOS and the training you went to before you ever went out the wire.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I guess you can go. Yeah, you can go and talk. You probably went to school a little bit before I did, so.
Yeah, it may have been before the wheel was invented. I'm not sure, but nah. Even for Air Force EOD, I'm kind of different. I refer to people like us as hybrids, and what I mean by that is we came in the military and came into EOD before 9/11. So I came in at 98 before the GWAT era, and we were going through school, and so this was halfway through the transition from EOD school from where it originally was in Indian Head, Maryland, down to Eglin Air Force Base. And so I went through EOD school halfway through Eglin, and then halfway I went up to Indian Head, the original EOD school, and I was the third to last class to graduate from EOD school, the original one. Oh, wow. So that's kind of weird. And then after 9/11 happened, and I'm still a young EOD guy, 9/11 happened, our focus in Air Force EOD shifted completely. from, because every service has their own unique mission set, and it's, service rivalry is great and I love it, but our differences are our strengths, I think. It's a good thing that our Army EOD has their own unique mission set. Same with Air Force EOD and Marines and every other service. But yeah, with how we were going, how it shifted from taking care of aircraft and all that to supplementing sister services or ISAF or coalition forces. We had to do a lot of shooting from the hip, big level stuff, and really drinking from the fire hose when we get boots on ground. So,
yeah, and I mean that was something that the military working dog community also kind of ran into. Like they went from guarding checkpoints to going out on patrols. I mean, and obviously they still had patrol dogs within SOF and stuff, but it was unusual for a Navy EOD or not EOD military working dog handler to be like walking around with a bunch of infantrymen. Like it was just everything was changing so fast, and I don't think they ever really got a handle on it.
Yeah, no, I know that they're very similar to us in our stateside mission and deployed mission. It's very supplementary. We have similar roles as enablers, if you will. That's how we saw it. But our time there at Spirawan Gar with, some of the dog handlers that were there. I mean, I remember working with Jonesy and Roybal, and those were some of the most professional guys I'd ever worked with, personally, professionally. And yeah, so we kind of had our own thing in the EOD hooch. We would be playing poker a little bit when, in the evenings, because you need to blow off some steam, but we had each other, I guess. We were the misfits, the redheaded stepchildren.
Well, and I think your poker nights out at the EOD shack became the poker nights in the big building. And like, yeah, I know that Sean and his guys, they kept having the poker nights over in the EOD shack. So like, honestly, I mean, that's the kind of shit that gets everybody by, whether it's poker night with you guys or going and playing with the dog in the kennel, or I don't know. I mean, like, not only did you guys bring like a little bit of comfort to the fight, like, okay, we're good on this mission. EOD's here. Like, I don't have to clear across this road. Or it's like, hey, the dog is here. Like the dog can sniff out that or whatever. But then when we get back, that you kind of had less rules than we did. So it was nice to hang out with you guys where we weren't worried about getting yelled at for having our IFAC in the wrong pocket or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of the daily struggles that some you guys would have versus what some daily struggles for us looked like. And it was interesting. It was almost like sometimes being Air Force EOD, but in that location was almost like being a fly on the wall. Sure. So, some previous deployments, when I was new, I didn't really appreciate the differences, and I didn't really look for the opportunities to see how not just myself but as our EOD team we could support whatever unit we were supporting and whatever mission and role we were. So there were a deployment or two where I didn't step up and offer those supplementary services, the training or whatever the unit needed. And so I made it a point to at least try and stick around the talk and go to the daily briefings, especially during that time when there was the transition of units coming in. And like Ho talked about in his podcast, trying to be that continuity between the incoming and outgoing. We tried to do that for Ho's team that replaced us. We try to do and supplement as best as we could for you guys that were coming in. But at the same time, we have our limitations too, man, we would have loved to have done a whole lot, but it's really easy for them to not like something that we're doing and just replace us immediately.
Sure. Now, well, I wanted to ask you guys way off topic, and it's not that like it's just been a question that's burning my head. Like, what is it like to crawl up to or stand over or stand next to like a live IED, knowing that like someone with like a second grade education put that thing together? Like, what's going through your head as like you're kind of processing that, Sean?
I mean, so when I was out with you guys, I mean, Russ is just a man, you know. So I mean, being with him and working with him, it was just a good feeling knowing. But I don't think that out there I really had that opportunity, because I mean, when you're talking about like that, you know, that deployment, you know, you're leading up, getting ready to go overseas in general, and then as a team member, you know, like your sole job and what you're trying to do, or at least what I was trying to do, was to always like, you know, have whatever my team leader needed prepared, try to learn how they work, how they operate. And then, you know, when we go out to Panjwai, like all that changed, you know, like we weren't in a truck anymore. So then it was like, we go out on one mission and I'm carrying this one day. And then you're like, well, maybe I don't need to carry that. Maybe I need to carry this. So for me out there, never really had that opportunity. Just because, I mean, obviously working near with Russ, but some other places, I was working with different team leaders on that deployment before we had gotten there. We worked on some pretty large IEDs, and got, you know, relatively close. I can remember like the first IED I went down on when I was working with a team leader at the time, and we have like these team leader certification things, you know, that you've got to get done. And he was like, man, you know, like you just need to come down here with me. And I was like, all right, let's do it, you know. So I go down there with him, and like the first time being right there, and he's like, oh, here it is. And I was like, oh, wow, you know, it's pretty crazy. It's kind of surreal to think about, like, especially because a couple of days before that, we had an ANA guy get blown up. I mean, get launched. So it was like, wow, that's crazy that we're like sitting right here, you know. So that's like my experience as far as that goes.
And like, how did you train for that? Like, what was I mean, because we always talk about like the pre-deployment training, and for some people it literally was non-existent. But I imagine for you had a little bit of, you know, prep to know what you expect when you got into the country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have like a whole train up. I mean, I was very fortunate that after I got out of EOD school, I had a long time to train. And I mean, that's what we do. Like as EOD techs, I mean, we train a lot. Train like, you know, train like you fight, they say. So we had a lot of like really awesome training aids. And I mean, that's what a day in the life of, for me, for like at least the first year of me being an EOD tech, because there was a lot of stuff going on in my company at the time, and we were like relatively small. So yeah, I mean, people would like set up training aids, you know, like mock IEDs, and we would just run them and run them and run them and run them and run them. And then leading up to deployment, you know, I was working with a team leader at the time that I actually went through EOD school with. And he was working on getting his team leader certifications done because they wanted him. It was also his first EOD deployment, but he had made staff sergeant because he was prior service. And, you know, they were like, hey, we really want you to be a team leader, which is kind of surreal to me to think about, because, you know, I couldn't imagine when I got out of EOD school, you know, maybe 2 years, and they're like, all right, well, you're going on your first deployment, you're going to be a team leader, you know. Pretty insane. But it was cool for me because, you know, all three of us that were on that team training to get ready to go to Afghanistan, like we learned so much together because our EOD brains were pretty right around the same time frame. So whenever we were running like practical problems, we would just, you know, bounce ideas off each other's heads, like, hey, maybe we should try this, maybe we should try this, and it worked out pretty awesome. So I got to learn a lot there. And then pre-deployment, we went to Gator, which is they just run you through a lot of like really cool problems and stuff like that. And I mean, that's like I said, from my experience, every single day, you know, like we'd get up, go do our PT, come back in, and you know, somebody was running a problem for something, whether it be chem or IEDs or ordnance. You know, I mean, we're just always training every single day.
Now, you mentioned like the team leader certification and stuff. So, could you? I'm assuming this is very similar between the branches, but can you kind of describe what the relationship is with like a 3-man team, like between the team leader and the other 2 technicians? What's that like?
Like, are you talking about like jobs, roles?
Yeah, because like, you know, you look at an infantry squad, right? You have a team leader, and you have 2 team leaders. You have a squad leader, and then you have like your 4 Joes, and like one guy's carrying a rifle, one guy's carrying a machine gun. It's like how is that kind of team dynamic work within EOD?
Well, so you would have like your team leader, and then you'd have your senior team member, and then you'd have your other team member. I think in like EOD doctrine, it's like P1, P2, P3. So P1 would be like your team leader, P2 would be your senior team member, and then your P3 would be your you know, your basically your junior team member. And then yeah, I mean, so like team leader's job obviously is to do anything on a device or a piece of ordnance. You know, like they're the ones that's going to make the call. They're the ones that's going to put themselves in the dangerous situations. And by dangerous situations, I just mean like being in that position of you know, if something needs to be done, they're doing it. And then P2, your senior team member, you know, his job would basically be to just be there to support the team leader. You know, like if you're in a you know, you're on like a mounted mission, you know, you're the one that's ripping the robots out, you know, and you're the one that's helping the team leader get into the bomb suit, and you're helping the team leader, you know, just do everything. Like from a senior team member's point of view, I always took it as I was always trying to be like one step ahead of the team leader. Like if the work dynamic was good, like I already knew what he was wanting to do or what he was looking, you know, to accomplish. So I'm trying to get tools around or you know, rope or and stuff like that. But everything was different with Russ because Russ was like a one-man show, you know.
Speaking of the one-man show, the man, the myth, the legend himself finally made it. Russ,
I made it.
welcome to the Panjwai Podcast Live. You already know Sean. I
think I know him. Yeah, you look a little different.
It's been a while, huh? What's up, Russ?
Looking good, man.
Thanks.
And then I don't know if you know Mario or not, but Mario was one of the Air Force EOD technicians that was at Spur One Gar when we got there. I don't think you guys passed on that deployment, but
I don't think so. Yeah. What's up, man?
Hola.
I have a quick question. So
yeah.
So you guys were out there. I remember like the first thing I thought of, like when I walked into the shop out there at Spermgar and like out there in like the little like sunroom or whatever. And there was all like, I remember the first thought that went through my brain was like, man, somebody smoked a lot of cigars out here, dude. Like there were cigar labels all over this cabinet, man.
Mario, is that Mario?
I may have been responsible for probably 40 to 50% of those labels. Yes.
Gosh, man, that's a lot of cigars, my friend.
For our uninformed audience, like we've talked about how luxurious Spur One Gar was in the past, but EOD had like, so we all lived in the building, so it's kind of like barracks for the infantry guys. But EOD kind of had their own little structure right up against the hill that nobody went to, and they kind of had they improved it pretty well. Can you guys want to tell us a little bit about Club Sparwan over there?
We actually downgraded when we went there. We're a little upset about that.
How so?
But well, let's see. Remember when we were up in Shaw Joy? It was we're like the second EOD or Army EOD team there, but prior to us it was Navy EOD, and they bring their CBs out to build, and so we had and then EOD or Navy EOD teams, I think they run like eight-man teams. And so the shop they built was designed for 8, but there was only 3 of us there. And we had our own generators, our own heaters. It was a fenced-in compound with cipher locks to get into the compound, and so you actually had to buzz in to even get in there. So it was pretty sweet. But,
so Spur One Gar was not nice for you.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
It was nice for the infantry, okay?
I'm surprised the Air Force let a team go to Spur One Gar.
It was like one of the nicest fobs I've ever been to. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, here's the real question, Mario. Did you guys get paid extra to be at Spur One Gar? Like you get?
No, I'm so tired of hearing that. It's not a thing.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
No, the EOD shop at Spur One Gar is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It was.
We had sweet digs there, man. It was good life. Yeah.
I had it made because I had that whole side room all to myself.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that side room. Yeah,
it was just me. Well, it was me and 900 mice that lived in there with me.
That's why you needed the pit vipers. We had the pit vipers in the concrete building. They took care of the mice.
Exactly.
There you go.
Walk around barefoot. I think they and maybe I don't know.
I know. I really appreciated those shower. There's nothing like a twilight shower. That
was magical.
Not just that. The sign.
Yeah,
it was the sign. The sign was the best part for me.
I think I got a picture of that.
Was it the "Don't jerk off in the shower" sign?
There's something about your
little soldiers. Your little soldiers.
Yeah, something about little soldiers and. Was that your guys' first sergeant that put that up?
I don't know, honestly.
It seems a little weighty for him, though.
Well, he wasn't there with us the whole time.
Oh, okay.
First sergeant Cullum came a little bit later, so I have a feeling that sign was there well before we got there.
Probably.
Oh.
That was the one. That was the one thing I watched your episode, Russ, and I was hoping that you were going to talk about like our entrance into Spur One Gar and that when we went there and talked in the office with him. And it was the best thing that happened in my whole career.
Did Column try to scare you straight or something?
I don't remember that.
Oh,
refresh my memory.
Yeah, I remember he pulls us into that office and he's like, "All right, guys, now you guys are in the wild, wild west. I'll take you like 50 meters outside that fob, and we'll get to a firefight real quick." I was like, "All right, dude."
I vaguely remember that.
We're here for it, dude.
And then I'm getting right back in my truck and watching you guys.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, he probably said it like 50 times, like, "Welcome to the wild, wild west."
And the irony is, like, when you guys got there, he'd only been there for like 2 months. It's not like he was there the whole time.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So Luke actually had a good question when he was in the chat before he joined us in person. Welcome, Luke. Thank you for joining us from your
What's up, boys?
Kentucky.
What's up, Luke?
Yeah, I don't have the best internet connection now. What's going on? It's good to see your beautiful face again, Sean Johnson.
Yeah, man. It's been a while, dude.
Been a long time, ain't it?
Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
Whole nother lifetime.
Yeah, right. I think my lasting memory of Sean Johnson was him looking at me after I almost got shot and be like, "Dude, are you alive?"
Yeah, dude. But hey, that was a scary moment, dude.
That was close. Yeah. I don't think I've fallen so fast in my life. I didn't have any control over what my legs were doing.
Yeah, just crack. That's all you heard was crack. Look back at the wall, and I'm like, "Oh my god, dude."
It's called survival instinct, when you command your body to simply cease functioning for your own survival.
You know what? One of my favoriteest memories of Sean was remember that patrol we were on, and then we had the female engagement team gal, and then we had that. Who is that other female that carried the wolfhound?
Oh, the Scottish interpreter.
Yeah. And she was walking around, dude. And then we took contact. We were just crossing like a little creek. And we took contact, and Korea and I made it to the other side of the creek, and we just started shooting. And then we kind of look around like, where's Johnson at? Where'd he go? And those chicks grabbed him from the back of his vest and yanked him back down into the creek. And he's like, his whole back is like in the water. Yeah, and they
Oh my
it's
God.
hilarious.
I've told
It's
that
pretty
story
funny.
so many times. That pissed me off so bad.
That was the day.
Yeah.
That's when Praise took the round in the arm. That was we're looking for the kid in the weed field.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah, when the New York Times is like, yeah, there's this kid got beheaded, and we're like, we're gonna go look for him. We're just gonna trust the locals, and they're gonna point us right to where this kid is. We're like, or
Oh
they're
yeah. Oh
point
yeah.
freeway ambush, which is what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, we just always showed up for the good time, man.
Yeah.
You did. You guys
We
had
just
to have
followed you guys, you know.
for the fun missions.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just followed you guys.
Fun, fun.
So what is the question? Differences y'all saw between Army EOD and other branches?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Mario lead off with answering this one since he's the lone non-Army EOD guy here. Give him a chance to defend himself before we all start crushing on him.
Nah,
So the Air Force has nice living.
I'll be your Huckleberry. I don't give a shit. No, I actually kind of alluded to this earlier. Is that each service has their separate roles, and that we have the same basic generic functions and capability as basic EOD techs having gone through EODs, joint nav school EOD. But we all kind of have our specialties similarly, I would say, to infantry, to other types of things as well. Air Force, we pretty much started off. Our career field came from England in World War II when the Nazis were flying over London and dropping bombs. And they had delay fuses on them, and Army engineers had to figure out real fast how to take care of them. So long story short, that's where our career field came from. But airplanes fly with bombs, explosives, all that kind of stuff. So that's initially why Air Force EOD became a thing. I won't even pretend to talk about Army EOD's mission. It's a lot more ground-based than we are. Obviously, Navy is a lot more underwater ordnance and that type of stuff. Marines, I have no idea. I know that they're really, really good and can do a lot with very, very little. And I got a lot of respect for them. So that's kind of my take on it. I think we all kind of supplement each other. And yeah, that's what I think.
What about you, Russ? You've been in the EOD community for a hot minute. What do you see as kind of the difference between the way that branches handle it?
He's pretty spot on. So we all have our areas of responsibility, and as Army, because we're a ground fighting force, obviously our primary focus is on our focus is on ground combat. So Navy, when they go to EOD school, they got an extra division where they do underwater. Okay. And they're all dive qualified. So their main thing is, I mean, we can all do the same ground and surface stuff, but we're not all. Only Navy's trained are scuba certified and whatever they call it. I don't know. So they're scuba certified and they train on dealing with. They do underwater demo and all that good stuff. And then, yeah, Air Force. I mean, not Air Force, Marines. Yeah. But what happened with GWAT? So all right, go ahead. But so what happened with GWAT was the Army initially, because in the doctrine, Army does land-based warfare. So the Army went in, and we were quickly overwhelmed with the amount of work. You know, Army did not have enough EOD techs in the entire Army to fight Afghanistan, and Iraq. And so all branches jumped in. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, despite all the differences, at some point you all ended up, driving and walking around with grunts,
Right. Yep.
trying to make sure that their MRAPs don't get blown up. And it's kind of neat to see how the military, and specifically EOD, but I mean, it happened, like we talked about military working dogs earlier, they did the same thing.
Right.
How they just had to like kind of shift their focus to make sure that, the guy on the ground was best supported. And I think that's pretty neat about your community in particular, is how quickly you were able to just shift. And I think that's because, as Mario mentioned, and you talked a little bit about in the podcast, you have a stateside mission too.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So all 4 branches does the same stateside missions. So I think you can even find videos of, like, I know there's one here in Washington, sea mine showed up somewhere, and the Navy EOD out at Bremerton went and disposed of that out in the water. So there's news video of it somewhere.
It's pretty wild that you have a sea mine just showing up in the Puget Mountain. Like, where did this come from?
Well, yeah, I want to say that back in World War II, we actually did put a defensive perimeter of sea mines off our coast. And so I don't know if, like, oh shit, one got lost. And they weren't as, I think back in the 30s and 40s, they weren't quite as didn't keep track of their stuff as tight as we do now.
Continuity was not an issue.
Well, we literally lost nuclear bombs, so the idea of losing a sea mine probably all that.
Right. Yeah.
There's not a lieutenant out there doing inventory of sea mines every quarter, every change of command.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a see, this is back in, I don't know if you were here yet, Johnson, because you got here in what, 2010? 10-ish?
I think Sean might be a little frozen.
Yeah, 2010.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah, so I think you might have been here right around the time it happened, but we were going up to Seattle, the Seattle ports, like almost weekly, because they were dredging out there and they kept pulling out UXOs underwater, the dredge. And we're like, dude, you guys got to stop doing this. Like, after 10 UXOs they're digging up, we're like, you guys got to stop this. Well, it turned into this big Army Corps of Engineers thing, this study and research. Turns out what happened was, as ships were coming into port from World War II, rather than inventorying everything, they just dumped everything overboard. So they're like
very believable.
We'll just dump it all and expend it, and we're good, and we can all go on leave now that we're in Seattle. Well, fast forward.
There's nothing unbelievable.
Sounds like ASP ammo.
I know, right? What's that?
I said it sounds like ASP ammo.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
What's the rule? If you don't shoot it, you have to give it back. So it all gets shot.
Yep. So
right.
So yeah. But
oh man, I had a really good question, then I forgot about it. Russ starts talking about freaking lieutenants not wanting to do their inventory.
I've always had a question.
All right,
and granted, I will be the first one to admit the majority of my EOD knowledge comes from the Hurt Locker. Right?
That's totally true stuff.
Right.
Too.
And we all can agree on how amazing that movie is, right? It's like a documentary.
Right.
Pretty much.
Right.
But like the bomb suit, right?
Yep.
What's gonna happen if you're wearing the bomb suit and one goes off, right? Is it gonna work, like, for real?
That's not really what it's designed for, though.
Mario's nodding his head very aggressively. Mario, tell us what's going to happen if you stand on a real IED. None of these like 5.
Yeah, like a real one. Like, what's it gonna do?
Let's say you start at 15 and then you end at 300.
100. Because anything over 100, it's gonna turn you inside out, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I can remember.
Go ahead, Sean.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, I can remember, in EOD school, like, when they started talking about the bomb suit. I don't even remember what division it's in, but they talked pretty heavily about And I think they had like diagrams and everything that they showed us. And it was basically just talking about how like, it's more for like going there and coming back more so than it is like being on top. But it'd be, I guess, interesting to know anybody that's like been in a bomb suit on top of like a device or ordnance or something, and what it's done, I guess.
I mean, I feel like 20 pounds or less, you break a couple bones and you go home, right? Like, because 20 pound IED is like a double amp, but you survive. So I feel like
so the suit's actually designed to channel the blast, so it protects you from the blast. But there is a limit to it. Like if there's a 50-pound charge and you're a foot away from it, that's not going to do anything. But if that same 50-pound charge, say it's a command detonated IED, and they detonated a little early, and you're 30 feet from it, that bomb suit could be the difference between surviving and not.
So what you're saying is like in the beginning of the Hurt Locker, when he's running away from the IED and it goes off, like he should have survived, right?
Oh, he should have been running backwards.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we found one discrepancy in the Hurt Locker. Okay. All right, we can agree that we found the one mistake in that movie.
That's a 15-point hit right there. He failed. Or 16-point hit, I should say.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah, I've always wondered that about that bomb suit, because I've always like seen you geared up and things like that and been like, no. Like, no.
So the charges that we saw there in Panjwai definitely would have saved us from it.
Yeah.
So
sure.
And it would have saved limbs probably. It definitely would have worked. But some of those bigger ones we saw elsewhere, it wouldn't. But it might have protected us as on our approach to recon it, or when we're heading back. So yeah. So and blast is really funky. Like it does a lot of weird stuff. So there's no way you could say like, oh, a 10-pound blast, they'll protect you. It all depends on the environment. Really, humidity can make a difference. What walls are surrounding you, all that kind of stuff can make a difference of, what that 10-pound blast does.
Sure. That was a good question, Stu. Way to come.
Yeah. Well, I see now that I was like, man, I was really struggling for questions, and now I have like a flood of them coming.
Let's go. What's up?
And most of them are ridiculous, and I apologize ahead of time. So, do you guys remember the little yellow stick that the Afghan clearance teams and their EOD had? The little magic yellow stick? Nobody? Nothing? Okay, maybe I'm just imagining that.
No.
It was like the Afghan clearance teams, and maybe this was like at the beginning before they actually got equipment, but they had like this little yellow stick that was like their clearance device. And I was curious was that just like a magnet at the end of a stick? Because I thought that's what it was. But
I think the classification on that has expired, and it's really just a stick.
Yeah. It felt like it wasn't hooked up to anything. We know they didn't have batteries. Like,
here, take this stick. It'll find IEDs.
That's a Marine Corps.
Legit. From your description, I ran into a similar device used for searching in Iraq. That was like this plastic black handle and an antenna that comes out, and like a spot for a coax cable to hook up. And there's like a couple cards, and if it reads this, you have this explosive. And I responded to something, and this guy's like IP guy's showing it. And I've never seen this before. It looks like Fisher Price, my first explosive detector or something.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So I think I have the predecessor to what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it was made by the same manufacturer. Yeah, but they believed that it worked.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know how.
I didn't tell them it didn't. I just said I don't fucking know about this, and just went on my way.
And in a similar vein, and this is the Afghan and I'm sure Iraq is the same way, but their clearance methods of shooting at it, how effective could that be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I've been curious about that because they would just like start shooting and be like, it's clear.
Interesting.
Does that have any validity?
No.
Well, now, hold on. Did you guys not carry a 50 cal around for that exact purpose?
Not for IEDs.
What was the 50 cal for?
It was for submunitions.
Okay.
And
Define that because I mean,
what was it?
Submunitions, yep.
yeah, submunitions.
Little bomblets that come out of dispensers from the aircraft. It's more of an Air Force thing.
You carry a 50 cal rifle to shoot.
Standoff munitions disruption. That's SMUD. They're SMUD techniques.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you made up a reason to have a 50 cal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the difference is
not only does that not sound like it's going to work, but I highly doubt any non-soft sniper's ability to hit one of those things with a 50 cal.
Well, you think about it. The idea is that the enemy will use submunitions to lay it down on an airfield, and so we just took the airfield, but now we need to clear it so that we can actually use it
With an aerial weapon.
So it's in a relatively non-threatening. What's the word? Non-hostile environment. So we have the ground. We just need to clear it, and it's a lot safer to do that than walk down and deal with it.
With a 50 cal sniper rifle.
Exactly.
With a 50 cal.
So if we miss, we got all day to keep shooting at it until we hit it. Eventually, Johnson will hit it.
Yeah. But then you have to lubricate the rounds because they go into the magazine easier.
Rub
Remember
the
that.
old jive.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, you got to use the Capri Sun.
Yep. Rub the old jive.
Yep. Take a hit of that Capri Sun spit and rub, specialist spit and rub.
I mean, it sounds like the Hurt Locker was pretty fucking accurate so far. Like you guys have done a poor job of convincing me otherwise.
Yeah, part of passing EOD school is you got to be able to deadlift at least 600 pounds.
You got to pull up 8155 shells with one hand.
With one hand, yeah.
That's like what, like 800 pounds? That's a huge, not like 400 pounds ish.
155 is pushing 100 pounds each.
Is it? Yeah, so
Yeah.
Totally realistic.
Yep, exactly.
Why you got to do those curls, man?
By the det cord, because nothing bad ever happens with det cord.
I have never seen rounds that well put together that you can pull the weight by the det cord. They do not wire their shit that good. Trust me, because we don't wire our shit that good.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever come across an IED and be like, damn, this dude really knows what they're doing? Like, just been absolutely impressed by like the craftsmanship and the creativity, or like, is it literally all a whole bunch of first graders?
I think we talked about it a little bit on my podcast with the Afghanistan, not so much, but Iraq was. Mario, you said you've been to Iraq, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some impressive shit in Iraq. Like,
it's really interesting to compare the two because Iraq was my foundation before going to Spurwan Gar in Afghanistan. But yeah, to Russell's point, absolutely. It definitely seemed a couple steps up as far as how it was employed, how it was put together, all that kind of stuff. A lot of things coming together. Afghanistan, I don't want to say it was the Wild Wild West because I don't want to put somebody into that negative headspace again. However, it seemed like the low tech, the whole KISS concept, keep it simple, stupid.
Sure.
It seemed like that tended to work the best, but that was just based off of my observations.
That's pretty much right on.
I liked Russ's comparison in his episode where he talked about technical versus tactical, whereas like the IEDs in Iraq and even different parts of Afghanistan were more technical. They were better built. They had all these different triggers and switches and stuff. But like in Panjwai or Kandahar, and probably even Helmand would be the same, they were just really fucking good at knowing exactly where to put them. So they didn't have to be technically complicated.
Right.
Like they could just, they had this tactic that worked, and they were really good at it, and it was fucking scary for us, at least.
Yeah.
Not for Russ, apparently. Apparently,
it was scary, all right.
Yeah, okay,
yeah. It was too much.
So Mario, we didn't get to work with you guys a whole lot while we were there. What was like? What was your day to day? Because I mean, we got there and we did like a couple entry patrols. We did like one big operation. And you guys were gone. So before we got there, what was kind of your day to day like? Did you go out on dismounted patrols with the guys a lot? Was it mostly reactionary?
Is this me?
Yep.
Yeah. So the way kind of that the rules were set for us, it's basically like Office Space where he's got 8 different bosses.
Sure. Yeah.
That's how it was for us. And, we were mainly postured as QRF, as a QRF responsibility. So as the landowner, if you will, if something comes up in the landowner's AO, an explosive hazard, they'll look for the closest EOD asset. And if it's us, they'll call. And, if the unit we're with, if it works for them, we'll go and take care of it. And that all gets worked in, racked and stacked with, what you guys have going on. Supporting infantry and troops in contact is obviously more important than other things.
Sure.
But by nature, they made it extremely clear over and over and over again that we were not to enter the rotation of patrols and this and that. I spent a lot of time trying to explain higher up Spurwangar in that area and the Grape Rose and why we can't take vehicles everywhere. And, Russ knows that when you're operating a mission mounted versus dismounted, it's apples and oranges as far as what capability and level of protection you have. So knowing those limitations beforehand were really important when it comes to proper planning. It was a big balance between wanting to be there for everybody and take care of the supported unit, but at the same time, we had to make decisions that wouldn't get our guys unnecessarily killed or yanked out, and then some other dumbass comes in and it's going to be even worse for you.
Sure.
So, yeah, the unit that was there beforehand, leadership was a bit different. So that was putting things together for Captain Kitching and everybody, then trying to get him set up on the best way forward was a large part of what I was trying to do towards the end, especially after my 2 team members left and went back to CAF. This was a couple days before you guys went on that mission, unfortunately, where Brazos was hit. But I remember the days before that, and just, on one hand, I was like, I did everything I could for them. I showed them where everything was. We sat down with the maps, looked at, everything. But and it's so difficult to just sit back and not go. And especially when we found out about Brazos, that I think I left a day after that, it was like, that was tough, man.
Yeah.
Because we're there to do a job, and it felt like we were, sometimes it felt like a hand tied behind your back, but at the end of the day, I don't regret any of the big decisions and stand by supporting you guys. So,
well, and that was one thing we noticed with a lot of the supporting units is, you guys had your own bosses and you had your own chain of command. It was parallel and slightly under ours, and the dog handlers had the same thing, and some of the interpreters, like the Scottish interpreter, she had her own rules. The female engagement team had their own rules. The civil affairs, yada yada yada, all these enablers. And I remember one time the chaplain team came out because we were all fucked in the head, like real bad. So they brought the chaplain team out, and the cop got attacked. So we're all up on the walls, like, "Hey guys, come on, hop up, get your cab." They're like, "We're not allowed to engage." We're like, "What do you mean? We're being attacked. Get on the wall." They're like, "No, we're not allowed." So it's like all these different rules about you can go on patrol or you can't go on patrol, and then it seems like they changed too. So in the beginning of the deployment, we had a lot of engineer support. They were real eager, but then a couple engineers were killed, and they're like, "Hey, the risk reward isn't really there. We need to dial back our role and responsibilities." So it's a real tough balance for you guys.
Yeah, it was, but obviously we had some pretty good team members and team leaders in the AO. We had some guys down at Kenjikak, Mushan, all kind of littered around, and we talked amongst one another almost every single day, bouncing things off each other, how things were going with their supported units, learning from them. Constantly going back and forth to Zhang, seeing what they're doing, helping them out. Did one or two flyaways or air assaults, whatever you want to call them. So, yeah, I mean, we really try and be as flexible as possible, but like from Russ's podcast, all the complaining about what takes EOD so long, it's because nobody fucking tells us that goddamn telephone game is too long. It's too long. That's why.
Well, especially in Panjwai, like even if immediately, like you're like, we tell you immediately, like we have a 3-hour walk to get to you. Like it's not like we can just hop in a truck and drive there in 30 minutes. It's just not possible. And I know, we don't hold it against you guys at all, but it was nice when the Army teams came in and like, "Hey, we can go on patrol with you." We're like, "Yes," because A, you can clear all the hard shit, and B, you're there if we find shit. And C, but particularly with Russ and Sean's team, those dudes love to fucking shoot shit. So Sean, tell us what it was like to be an honorary infantryman with Bravo Company 164 and just get into gunfights all the time, which is definitely not. Did we lose Sean?
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome experience. Can you guys hear me?
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, it was a super awesome experience. I mean, like I said, the earlier parts of that deployment, some parts of it were boring, some parts weren't. But I mean, when we got there with you guys, I mean, I was super fortunate to get to work with Russ because I mean, Russ, from my experience, was just really good at getting boots on ground in Sperwingar and building a really good relationship with your guys' unit and everybody else that was, in charge of everything going on. And then like letting you guys know our capabilities. Because I mean, from my perspective, it could have been another team leader that went out there and they could have just been like, well, we're just going to QRF for you guys. You know what I mean? But obviously that wasn't the best way for us to support you guys. So yeah, I mean, it was cool. It was interesting to be able to go out and see how infantry operated. And I don't know, looking at like those LTs on the ground, I don't know. I still think back and I'm like, man, like to be that LT on the ground that's got to make those decisions, like I have a lot of respect for those guys. So yeah, for sure. It was cool.
I mean, that's a good point. Like, can you imagine being 22 years old and straight out of college? Like, hey, man, you're in charge. Go. Don't get anybody killed. Like,
it's funny because as EOD, it's actually in the regulation that on an explosive incident, the highest ranking but the most experienced EOD tech takes control of the incident.
Right.
So there could be a freaking colonel, but might only have a few years of actual EOD time. Then that staff sergeant who has a whole bunch of years is going to take control.
Sure. Yeah. As
So
it should.
yeah, and so I know for me, I'm sure for Mario and Sean too, it was like, man, this is weird. We're in the shit right now. Bullets are flying everywhere. And I mean, the lieutenants did a great job, but it was just like that platoon sergeant's been there, done that before. This is that lieutenant's first time doing this shit. And it was just like, wow, But so
Well, if you really think about it, in a firefight, like the risk is quite low. There's a lot of room for that LT to make some mistakes before the platoon sergeant's like, okay, sir, we're gonna bring it back a little bit. But what you mentioned is a really good. It's the exact same way in the aviation community. If when you get into an aircraft, the senior pilot is in charge, or the pilot is designated as the pilot in command is in charge. Sometimes that's a higher ranking officer. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a lieutenant colonel listening to a CW2, and the CW2 tells lieutenant colonel to shut the fuck up. Lieutenant colonel shuts the fuck up.
Yeah,
and it's with certain career fields you can do that because the inherent risk of just doing the job is so high that there's no room to let the LT make some mistakes. And it's just funny that a firefight is one of those places where we've determined that it's okay for the LT to make a few mistakes.
Yeah, it was a little baffling though at first. I mean, it's just a whole different culture, right? So, but then somebody explained it to me later. It's like, well, that platoon sergeant trains with the PL, and so that PL is kind of making the decisions that the platoon sergeant would have been making.
Right, and he's leaning super hard on him.
Yeah.
He's like, guys, go charge that hill. yeah.
So it makes sense, but yeah, that those first few times I was like, man, this is nuts.
Yeah.
So,
well, and what's really interesting about our deployment is typically the experience difference between a first lieutenant and a captain is nothing. Like it's literally a year difference of whenever they went to school.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, Captain Kitching had been enlisted, and then he had been in Ranger Regiment. He had been in 82nd. He'd done all these things. So he was a 03 with the experience of like an E7. So it was, the difference in expertise from our PLs to our company commander was massive. Which, that's a whole other podcast, but but it was I think we were lucky to have that. And I think every unit that has an officer that was prior enlisted is lucky to have that officer. Yeah. But
I guess those LTs that you guys had, they were probably really fortunate to have him as well, because I don't know, from my perspective, I don't necessarily remember every one of the LTs that we worked with, but I know that your guys's officer leadership, and no, they had already been in country, dealing with stuff in Spermgar for a while, but as opposed to your guys' the company that came after you guys, it was night and day for sure, from my perspective.
And we had the benefit of a slow ramp up into the worst part of our deployment. Like we got there in March, it was pretty quiet. The unit before us hadn't been patrolling a whole lot. So as we started pushing out, they weren't really expecting us. So we got away with stuff we probably shouldn't have until probably late April, early May. And that's when they're like, oh, okay, these guys are pushing into the spots that we don't want them. So we kind of like the LTs and like I said, 80% of the unit was brand new. So it wasn't just the lieutenants. It was squad leaders, team leaders, platoon sergeants on their first combat deployment. So like everyone kind of got their legs under them slowly. And then by the time it got bad, people were they had their heads on, 138, man, 3 days in and they were facing some gnarly shit, man.
Yeah. We were there on their first KIA. It was pretty rough day there.
That was was that Williams?
Williams, right? Yep.
Yeah.
So
you guys were up front with.
Yeah. Do you remember how we ended up front there, Johnson? I forget, because we don't normally patrol right behind the clearing team.
Yeah. So I think I remember Wes was like talking, I think with you, I think, and it was like because he was clearing, NCOIC or whatever, and I know that they were going to be shoved up because I think there was some weird thing going on with the ANA at the time where like they were supposed to be up front, but they didn't want to be up front, so then they pushed his clearing team to the front, and then I think it was just kind of like well, they're going to have all these Afghans behind them, and then if we had to, respond to something closer up, I think they basically just probably asked us like, "Hey, do you guys want to be up here?"
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't remember because normally we would on the patrol we would be with the PL or kind of in the middle of it all. But I remember at that time it was like there's the clearing team, which is what 4 dudes.
Yeah, I think it was like 3 or 4 guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's us, and then the whole ANA platoon, and then the rest of the US guys. So yeah, so when the shit hit the fan, it was like all the ANA guys.
Yeah, you're like,
They all just jumped into a grape row, and then that IED took out the whole clearing team, and then it basically just left us 3 kind of exposed on our own.
Yeah.
So yeah, so and we just started shooting.
yeah, for sure.
3 guns started shooting.
It was, yeah. I mean that day specifically was kind of sketchy for us because I mean you're talking like the rest of the U.S. guys were like behind a wall still.
Yeah, there's still a whole grape or not grape row, but a whole what do you call it? Farm field away.
Yeah, so there was it was basically like the clearing team got hit. They were on the other side of a wall, and there's the EOD team, and I mean we were pretty much out there, kind of by ourselves. So it was, we had the ANA behind us, but they were just kind of running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
Sure, trying to find another idea to step on.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, Sean got to put his first aid to use, patched up some dude shot in the arm or some shit like that.
Yeah, because I think I remember when all that happened, there was that little wall or whatever, we had like rounds kicking up everywhere, and you could hear like whoever was shooting, they were pretty dang close. So I can the one and only time that I was in that AO where I dropped down as low as I could go, and then I just remember looking over and I could see like Aaron was like in a ditch, and I'm like, what are you doing in that ditch, bro? Like that's sketchy, But then I'm like, dude, like I gotta move, like I gotta go get into this ditch. So I got up and I was like yelling at Aaron, and I'm like, dude, I'm coming to you. And he was like, all right. So I got up and I got into the ditch, and as soon as I landed in the ditch, like boom, the explosion happened. And yeah, it was pretty gnarly because I remember kind of checking me, like, holy smokes, dude, was that just me, And then it was real quiet, so I was like, man, maybe that was like an RPG or something.
Yeah,
and then
we totally thought it was RPGs.
Yeah, and then it got pretty loud, and then I think I had the Minehound on my back, and I handed it to Aaron, and I was like, here, take this to Russ. And then we got kind of separated when you guys went off to do your thing, because that ANA guy got shot, and he was like vomiting everywhere, dude, like profusely, freaking out. Oh, it was disgusting, dude.
Didn't he get shot in the arm, right?
Yeah, well, he got shot like right in the shoulder.
Ooh.
Yeah, but this is what's crazy, right? So I always carried a pair of gloves, and I had like a little admin pouch on my vest, and I always carried a pair of gloves, and I was like, for that specific thing, like if I ever have to work on an Afghan dude, like I'm putting these gloves on. Well, like in the heat of the moment, like this, you could see this guy just pouring blood everywhere. So I'm like, all right, well, I don't have time for that. So start ripping all this dude's stuff off. I've got all these ANA guys around me, and then these guys were freaking out. You know what I mean? Like the unit that was on the ground with us, because they're just like, they're separated from us. They're like coming over the radio, like, what's going on? What's going on? And then yeah, so I'm like working on this dude, and I'm yelling at these Afghans, like, dude, like we're getting shot at. Like I'm telling the interpreter was sitting up there with me, and I'm like, you need to tell them, like, they need to pull security, dude, like we're getting shot at, So then, yeah, whatever. I, start working on this dude, but it's so funny because I can remember it's so hot over there, on this day, even specifically. I get this dude's vest off, and then I cut his fucking uniform top off, and I'm thinking like I'm gonna come do a t-shirt. No, there's like PTs under that. I cut that off. Then I cut a t-shirt off, and then he's got like a Gore-Tex on under there, dude. And I'm like, what the hell, dude?
Well,
Like,
it
how
was
does-
December, you know. It was
Yeah,
it was
for
like
them,
90
I
degrees.
guess.
And still,
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah, for them. Yeah,
wonder
but
there's-
it was crazy to me that like the Afghans, man, like they had worked with, you know, they've been out there for a long time, and it just blow. They're sitting over there praying over this guy, you know what I mean? And they're all just like holding his hand stuff, and I'm just like, like we're getting shot at right now, dude. Like, you know, no big deal for you guys, I guess, but like my rifle's like sitting over here off to the side as I'm like trying to plug up your, you know, your buddy, and then yeah, it was pretty nuts, pretty crazy day.
Yeah, it's a wild one.
You bring up a good point about the Afghans. You know, a big part of your guys' job was to try and teach them clearly. I mean, the ANA that we had didn't give a shit. We knew that.
No.
They were from way up north. They didn't give a fuck about Panjwai. Like, I know for a fact we would train a guy one day on the Minehound, and then literally the next day we hand him one, pretend like he never fucking seen it before. Like, no, I was like, literally taught you how to use this. Yeah. Oh no batteries. I'm like, here's a battery. Oh no training. Like, get the fuck out of here. Come on.
You guys do it. You guys do it.
And when we first got there, Mario, you probably remember this. They did actually lead patrols. Like, they had their mine clearer guys out front. But man, come June, fuck no, you couldn't pay them to get up there. They're like, no. Yeah. So I don't know, what was it like trying to teach those guys something as important as mine clearing?
I'm trying to think. I think we were trying. I don't remember. Like, I remember trying to schedule it and do it, and they just really weren't meeting us there. You know.
No.
Yeah. So I know we tried. I think we did a little bit, but for the most part, it was we were trying to plan it and schedule it, and they wouldn't come, and then we would have to go check their equipment because they got a bunch of like robots and some basic EOD shit, and yeah. So it's like pulling teeth to try and get them to come out and train, but
yeah,
they just wouldn't do it.
What about you, Mario? What was your experience like?
I feel like they always just wanted to eat food with us. Yeah.
Hey, which I was down with. Their food was good. It was freaking delicious.
Yeah, for sure.
About 50-50 getting dysentery, but it was good. Yeah. I had no problem. Like, as far as like individual, I mean, there were a few that were definitely fucking sketchy, but for the most part, man, they were there on their tour of duty, just like we were. Most of those guys were fairly relatable, but I mean, they just had no interest in
It was always sketchy for me to go over there and eat with them. It was always sketchy. I never wanted to go. I was like, no, I don't want to go.
I mean, like it was just, especially as like the green on blue thing got bad, like it just got super sketchy to be with the Afghans with anything less than like a squad. Because I mean, all it took was one dude with an AK. You could take out a fire team in a half a second.
Yeah, we were there when the Bellum Bay shooting happened, and you know, how things were on PBSG before the shooting and then after. I can't tell you how tangible it felt, you know, just going by there and just, you know, really having to carry your weapon on you. And, you know, it was not a good time back then. I can't say that I would have blamed any hostility, but yeah, we didn't try and that training lane or whatever you want to call it. We tried to make it available for anybody. We had a couple of them come up to us and ask something for one of their mine detectors. It looks, you know, like a Russian era, you know, Cold War era one from them, but really little interaction. But it was interesting because the unit before you guys, the info that we got was they took heavy casualties pretty early on.
Yeah, they did.
And I remember the EOD guy that I replaced, that was a lot of the things that he was telling me. Is when they got there, they took a lot of casualties and they were really not looking to go back and take the fight to people. So when you're talking about they weren't going on these patrols and QRFs, that's a little bit of the context of why that wasn't happening, so. But yeah, it's interesting how the dynamic shifted. You were mentioning you guys got there in March, and bad guys don't like to go out in the cold or the nasty weather. I mean, fighting season's a thing. So,
Hey, Mario, when were you there?
I got the PBSG probably end of January 2012. And I left the FOB probably May of 2012. Left country in June.
Okay. Did Hill replace you?
I think so. Yeah, Sergeant Hill.
Sergeant Hill.
Maybe. I remember. I'm really bad with names at this point. It's been a while. You know how it goes.
Scrawny Staff Sergeant.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
but yeah, Curtis, if you don't mind, I wanted to mention a little bit about talk about that 5K. And I understand how it may have looked to the new unit coming in and be like, there's this fucking Air Force guy holding a 5K in Spirwangar in Panjwai. But the story behind that is the two of us were stationed out of RAF Lakenheath. See, we're not like Army EOD guys sometimes where they deploy as an entire company. We get pieced together from, two guys from this place in the world, two guys from that. We get together. Well, Phil Myers, he was the guy that was stationed out of RAF Lakenheath. He's on, let's see, he's somewhere around here. Yeah, Myers is around here, but he was stationed at Lakenheath, and one of the team members when he was killed was my team member at Spirwangar. So every April 4th, our unit would hold a memorial 5K. And we were really pissed that we had to be stuck in Afghanistan while all our guys were having a bunch of fun and raising a bunch of money for this. So I said, fuck that. And basically started training. I started training for this 5K in Afghanistan by running laps around the FOB in a bomb suit.
Isn't that like 12 laps, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. And it was interesting because people are like, why the fuck are you doing this? You're raising money. Oh, this is great. No, I didn't actually raise any money. I wasn't trying to. It was just to show that it didn't matter where we are. We were going to support our brother who was killed in Helmand. Yeah. But that's why we did it. It meant something to us, and we felt it'd be kind of a good segue to bring the new unit in and kind of get people together. So that's my side of that story. So that's why we did something that stupid in the middle of Afghanistan.
Oh no!
Fuck you to Taliban.
We definitely didn't think it was stupid to do it. We thought it was stupid when we got forced to do it. Because everything is fun until it's mandatory, right?
Dude, punishment sucks. Punishment sucks.
Are you saying you didn't want to join us when we were doing our ruck running around the FOB there?
Yeah, but you had an ulterior motive we can't talk about on the live podcast.
It was awful.
No, when I saw you guys doing your circles with your 100-pound rucks a week after you got there, we had no desire to join you. And at that point, we had been there long enough that we didn't have to.
Hey, we were just training really hard, man.
Yeah. It's just training really hard to whittle your team down to 3.
Career would get so pissed when we'd be like on patrol and be like, "Hey, Career, this is great training for combat, isn't it?" He'd just be like, "Fuck you, man." Speaking of, I still feel bad about it when
The funniest thing.
Sean was promotable, E4 promotable, and we didn't realize that his APFT had expired, which took away his promotable status while we were there. Remember that? I'm sure you remember that, Sean.
I do, yeah.
And we're like, what the?
Yep.
Are you serious? Like, isn't the whole point of the APFT is to for a commander's assessment of a soldier's physical readiness for combat? I'm like, we're patrolling 4 or 5. I think we've even gone up to like 6 times a week. Obviously, our readiness is there.
Yeah. Right.
Not if you don't file the correct paperwork. It's not.
Exactly right. Well, we need the numbers.
Well, like, you know, the funny thing is, I went back to the board without having a new PT card too.
Are you serious? Yeah. Well, it's like, where were we going to do a PT test? On the freaking boulder rocks that we have to walk over?
Just run down Hyena.
Yeah, there you go. Just cover me. Cover me. I'm going to run down 1 mile up Brown and back.
Yeah, super.
Well,
funny.
it's you could do your PT test the pilot way, which is fill in your PT card, have your buddy sign it, and you sign his PT card.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't believe in the Army values, and then they don't have integrity. Everyone's least favorite Army value.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Was the board pretty easy when you went back for it? Looks like we lost him again.
Is that for Sean?
Yeah.
Deep in thought.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually failed it. I failed that board. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I failed. So I failed that board. So I went, man, I was such a crazy story. Like, I went to the promotion board 3 times in that year that I was in Afghanistan. I went to my first promotion board. They failed me. Then I went to my second, and that was when third had just gotten there. So it was Sergeant Major Stanley that was the holding the board. And then I come back for that third one, and he's like, what are you doing back here, And then he's like, oh, and he's like, you still don't have a PT card, And so from what I can remember, I failed the board, and Sergeant Major Stanley basically was like, I was here for his other board, like, we're not going to fail this guy, but he's like, you need to go do a PT test like right now. And I'm like, oh, easy, like, I'll go do a PT test right now. That's nothing, And then little do I find out that, we didn't do much cardio out there. So it sucked really bad.
Turns out doing real combat patrols is not at all like doing an APFT.
No. I can remember like running in that weird track out there in Kandahar. It just like loops and loops and loops and loops. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, take me back to Spur 1 Gar.
Remember we had to do that when we all got back? We're like, hey, we're just going to do a diagnostic, see where everybody's at. I remember running the 2 miles, and I was like, holy smokes, this is hard.
Yeah.
We're patrolling. We're there going out with you guys all the time and doing just fine. And then, but man, a PT test, it was actually kind of hard.
Yeah, it was difficult for sure. I remember, I don't know. I was usually pretty decent with the run. Like, I was never like a stud or anything. But I vaguely remember probably just barely passing that PT test on Kandahar.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be taking a PT test while you're on deployment, period.
No,
that is the stupidest fucking shit. All that stems from is officers that can't handle looking at a readiness slide and seeing red on it.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, what's going to happen? It's red.
But how are they going to know you're ready for war?
While you're at war.
While you're at war.
Yeah, but listen, the Army's so easy to like put it into a nutshell. Like, I can remember before we had gotten to Spur 1 Gar, I was working with another team leader, and like we had been out on like a multi-day, like we were like living in our truck for probably 4, 5, 6 days. I mean, it was a long, long mission. And we ended up going through Kandahar. And so we're like, okay, well, we're going to go get some stuff at the store, you know. And I can remember getting in there, and this sergeant major in like a dude, just clean uniform, just, you know, somebody was ironing that thing for him. There's no way they weren't. And he come up to me and he says, hey, he says, you need to go change that uniform right now. And I'm like, I'm just passing through, man. Just doing the Lord's work out here, you know.
This is what I got, man. I'm not
doing the God's work, the Lord's work.
You're right.
We're just here to grab some dip and chips at the PX, man.
Yeah. You know what? You're actually right. I do need to take a shower and I do need to change, but I'll let you know when that happens.
Fuck.
Oh man,
that's the word, man.
I hate sergeant majors. Just
I'm totally gonna be one of those.
You are. God. Oh man.
Have you developed a hatred for people walking on your grass yet?
No, I'm good.
That's how they find out if you're ready.
I guess I'll never get promoted.
How do you feel about red chiclet?
Oh man. Yeah, that should happen too when we went back.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think. Is when you guys, I don't know which one of the platoons went back to go pick up 138.
Was us.
Was it
we
you guys?
got at the DFAC?
We weren't with you guys at the DFAC because as soon as we got into CAF, we're like, all right, see you guys. And we went our own way. But we pulled in. Same thing happened. We're like, first stop. We're going to PX, grab some junk food.
Some licky cheese.
Yeah. So it's just the three of us, me, Johnson, and Korea. We park our truck, get to the PX, and we're walking out. Same thing. Sergeant Major, hey, why is your pants on, blouse? Hey, soldier needs a haircut. Are you his NCO? I was like, yeah. I was just like,
who the fuck are you?
Listen, you can't have your boots blouse during salsa night. Okay, we were dancing.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
That was not to stray too far, but that was my favorite part about becoming a pilot. Was
salsa nights?
So I never went to salsa night. I went to cigar night. Okay.
Gotcha.
And I had a live band, but just having the freedom to be like,
yeah.
Like I only really need to worry about Sergeant Major if I piss Sergeant Major enough that he went and complained to the battalion commander. Then I had a problem.
Right.
If it was like minor and I wasn't disrespectful, you can get away with a lot. Like walk around with your hands in your pockets.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah. But it's always good times. Just if I ever get promoted, I hope I never lose that grounding of the guys on the ground.
Yeah. And that's a good way to kind of close out this conversation, is to talk about how everything revolves around protecting that ground force, whether it's CAD scouts or infantrymen or whoever the fuck it is. All this great amalgamation of support assets, military working dogs, EOD, CBs, I guess, medics,
Air Force,
I guess.
Fine, I'll allow
it. We went to this like war environment that we had to almost dumb down because we were fighting an enemy that was, very competent, but fighting at a very basic level. So all these great and wonderful things that we had, like mine, clearing robots and GPR and all this stuff, it ends up like pulling a 15-pound IED or a $15 IED out of the ground. So for me, seeing you guys come to us at the lowest level at a combat outpost, really told me that even though I still hate the Army and I think it's fucked up and they just don't know how to operate, they do adapt pretty quickly. And for those that are still in, and if you're serving in different roles and support roles, remember, like, end of the day, you're supporting the infantry or Cav Scouts or armor or whatever. You're supporting the ground force. You're keeping them safe. And I just wanted to give you guys kind of go around to the three of you and kind of give you an opportunity to kind of talk about like any moment that comes to mind where you really felt like you made like a real impact. And I'm sure that there's many, but just pick one.
That's a tough one. I think I don't think it was necessarily any one thing. I think it's just being able to go out with you guys.
Sure.
I could sense the appreciation of us being out there, and I mean, I don't know how the other teams were before us, but it seems like I got the impression that you guys were happy we were there. That it was like, yes, they're coming.
Yeah.
And then being able to do our job, like, shit, yeah, an ID is found, and then we're able to just take care of it and beyond. I mean, I want to say most of the times we're done with it in 5-10 minutes. You know, it never really slowed the patrol down a whole lot, and it just seemed to, you know. So I mean, kind of dodging your specific question.
No, you're fine.
I think being able to go out there, patrol with you guys, and be that asset, and doing what we're supposed to do out there.
What I'm sure it was visible, like when like you walk into like our formation right before we step off, and we see that you're going with this. We're like, oh, okay, thank God, the EOD's
yeah, and then like I mean, I just remember the looks of people's faces when like, hey, EOD, get up here, and then I'm walking down there. Yeah, I always felt like I was pretty jovial about like, yeah, I get to do my job now, you know. So you know, and it's like, hey, there's a rock formation there, rock formation there. We need to clear this path so we can get through. Right on, dude, I got it, and we'll just, you know, I think we talked about last time, you know, pull the mine probe out, start probing right across. It's like, all right, we're clear.
You do that all you want. Yeah, that's all you. You can poke as many IEDs as you would like. I am not poking that shit. That's why we got line charges.
Oh, we're gonna have this discussion again, huh?
All right, Mario, we're gonna deviate real quick. Mario, what do you think about the fact that we got to make our own line charges?
I don't know if you can see what I just put in the chat.
Well, like we didn't use APOBs, but so I guess a little background. We got permission from like way up on high to go to the SF compound. They taught us how to make field expedient line charges. So basically, a line of deck cord with a knot of C4 about every 8 to 10 inches. And we were using those to clear across paths, but what we were really using them for was kind of like to do our own bips. And so we were basically the last like 3 months at the point we're rolling around. If we found like a suspected IED, we just threw a line charge on it and blew it. So it gave Russ like inseparable anxiety. So I was just kind of curious what you thought about a bunch of infantrymen running around with 20-pound blocks.
But you know what? They never did it when I was there.
That's true. We didn't need to.
You know, on one hand, I can't believe somebody thought it was a good idea to say yes to letting infantry figure out how to use special forces explosives or techniques.
That's now hold on. I had 1 day of explosive training. I feel pretty qualified.
Look, we had burgers first, then we went to the came back and we had.
I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express once. What more do you want?
We had Hello Kitty tape, so you know it was good. SpongeBob, it was good stuff. It was quality craftsmanship.
He's not making that up. We did have Hello Kitty tape. It was awesome. Like we had a box of C4, and we're like sitting in our like platoon area, like balling up in little balls and like wrapping it with duct tape. And
you know, I think when you guys left, I took that and disposed of it. It's gone.
That was smart.
138 line charges. Is that what you're saying?
Yep, exactly. As soon as you guys left, I'm like, hey, where'd they leave that box? I was like, oh, it's right here. Yeah, I need to take that. And it's gone.
It was good. You know, other than the fact that a few people decided to get a little extra on with how much C4 they put on their line charges, like a lot extra. And I'm pretty sure my TBI is from line charges, not from IEDs.
I'll admit, I'm sure it was a lot of fun.
It was. They gave us our independence back, all right? We didn't need you. We have our own line charge.
It was therapeutic making those charges.
Yeah, it is.
Hey,
Yeah.
we laugh all we want, but at the end of the day, our actions, you're still here.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Not a single infantryman blew their own appendages off with the line charge that we made. So, just saying.
wow.
A lot of technical jargon there. It seems like you're avoiding something.
But how many got sick eating it? Oh wait, no, that's Marines, right?
I am not saying that nobody ate a piece of C4 whilst line charges were being constructed. I cannot say that.
Oh man, too much.
No surprise there, really.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had the balls to set any of it on fire, though. I think we were at least a little bit, even though we knew you technically can. I don't think we were willing to test it.
So what if you set it on fire and then hit it with a hammer? Would it go up?
Yeah.
Russ says yes.
You are increasing the chance of shit going bad. That's my answer.
I've always wondered what that, like, the heat and pressure, like
heat,
how
shock,
much
and
would be-
friction. The more of those you put together, and the more you increase the chances of it going boom.
Okay.
Yeah. It burns real nicely.
I mean, if somebody hit you with a hammer, you'd probably get angry too, huh?
And if they set me on fire. So yeah.
That's fair. Well, before we go too far down the path of starting to teach each other how to make better IEDs and explosives and how they work, fuck you, ISIS, not today. I'll let Mario answer the original question that one I got off on our line charge tangent of a kind of a moment, and it doesn't have to be in Panjwai, just a kind of a moment where you felt like you kind of made a difference.
The main story that sticks out to me was clearing a palm grove outside of Baghdad in 2009, I think. It was an area amongst some farmland that Al Qaeda in Iraq had used as an area to build IEDs, to train, and basic evil shit. Your standard stuff. And over time, they had protected it with IEDs and put signs that said, do not enter and stuff. Well, they left the area. They weren't there anymore, but all the farmers around in the area did not want to come in and use the farmland because it was rich and fertile in this palm grove, but they couldn't use it. So our team was part of a planned clearance operation with some Army engineers, and we spent about a week out there, like 9 propane cylinders filled with bad stuff, UXOs, IEDs, normal stuff. But I'll never forget this, is that when we were getting back in the Jerv in our vehicle and driving off, all the kids and the villagers from the area were coming out and walking through the fields and waving to us as we were driving by. And they weren't waving to us like a lot of us have been, the normal stuff, or getting shit thrown at you, or, asking for stuff. Like these people, these villagers actually came out because they appreciated being able to use their farmland again. So when I look at our role as EOD, I look at the impact that we have as very tangible, not just to U.S. forces or coalition forces, but to people in life in general, no matter where we go. Our job is to mitigate the effects of explosives and protect life and personnel and property. It doesn't matter what, uniform you're wearing. It doesn't matter what skin color you're wearing. We're still trying to protect that life. And that was really important to me. So.
Cool. All right, Sean, what about you? A moment that kind of stands out.
I mean, I guess for me, it was probably, I mean, a lot to caveat with what Russ said. The like doing stuff with Big Army outside of, going to Spurwingar, you'd always get this like, mentality from like people of like, EOD, and I'm like, you guys are so slow, bro. And I don't know, it was just cool because I'm sure that there's other EOD teams that got to work super close with, a group of dudes like you guys. But maybe for just the small amount of people that we got to work with out there in Spurwingar, maybe just like gave the EOD community a really good look and a change of like what we're really like and what we're really willing to do to work with people.
Yeah, I mean, and both of those, viewpoints, both yours and Russ's, are absolutely true. It definitely changed our perception in terms of what we had read or seen in movies. Hurt Locker for the win.
Yeah.
And, there were so many experiences on that deployment with EOD engineers, handlers, all that kind of stuff, and it was just, I think it was a really good experience for the guys that were on the ground because it was humbling. It was, obviously the infantry is the best, and we're all grunts, and you're all pogues, and fuck everybody, right? But on that deployment, we kind of had to dial it back because we're like, okay, well, if EOD is going out on patrol with us, and the dogs are going out on patrol with us, and the combat engineers are going out on patrol with us, and freaking goddamn it, our armor guys are going out on patrol with us, I guess there's a moment in time where we're all grunts. So that was kind of my takeaway from that from a little bit. And before we close it out, and this is the moment we've been waiting for the entire live stream, favorite moment in the Hurt Locker. Sean, you go ahead first.
Favorite moment. I mean, dude, I had this thing with Capri Suns, so like it sticks with me to this day. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely what we'd already talked about. You know what I mean? Spit and rub, homie. Just spit and rub. I get Capri Suns all the time, dude. Like when I was in the Army, I'd like shove a whole box of them, in like my ruck and stuff. Like that's probably it for me. It's the Capri Suns, baby.
What about you, Mario?
Considering I initially watched this as a bootleg DVD a year before it came out in movie theaters, I actually watched this movie in Baghdad before it came out.
So it's like a documentary for you.
Yeah, really. 3 of us sat down. I remember getting this DVD. I made it through the whole thing. The other guy made it through the whole thing. My P3 couldn't take it more than like 10, 15 minutes. He's like, fuck this, and started going playing video games again.
Were you excited at first? We're like, they finally made a movie about us. This is going to be awesome. Or did you kind of...
No. I was not excited about Hurt Locker. Please don't ever refer. That's not even a thing.
Out of context.
Yeah. I was interested because I was like, what the fuck is this? And, you go to the normal Haji Mart in Mahmadiyah. That's where I was. And yeah, my favorite part, to get a little serious, the whole movie pretty much sucked. It wasn't accurate. But I think the most accurate part was the cereal aisle scene at the end. I can commiserate with that feeling coming back multiple times. Even to this day, I'm like, I mean, I'm just used to going and you put some mystery meat on there and something from a UGR and that's it.
Yeah.
So the fact that I have all those choices is surprisingly overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's all I got.
All right. Russ?
So, well, before I start, Mario, when were you in Baghdad? 2009?
Yeah, I was there from 08 to 09. I was in Mamadiya from January to March in 09.
Okay, I think we got there in April of 09. So we were out of Liberty, Camp Liberty.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were doing 6-month rotations.
Yeah.
3 were on Sather or the main base.
Yep.
And then the other 3 were on a fob. Mamadiya, that's down by Yusufia and Ludafia, Triangle of Death, bad
Right.
shit,
Right.
all that stuff. But
shit, our paths probably crossed back there too.
yeah,
Anyways.
if you've ever heard of an EOD guy taking care of a phase-in placed IED on railroad tracks with a train waiting on the outer cordon, that may or may not have been me.
Nice. Sweet.
I mean, do you stop the train? I mean, can you really stop the train? You can recommend that the train stop.
Oh, Curtis, that's a story for another time.
All right, that'll be the next one.
Yeah.
All right, so back to your original question. So,
favorite part of Hurt Locker?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or most impactful, most meaningful, most motivational.
I guess the most impact. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna expose myself, and
Hurt Locker.
I'm gonna diminish a little bit of my badassery on you guys. And the
Don't
most
do it.
impactful.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's so funny though. So the most impactful thing was, remember there's that scene where there's the crowd watching, so he throws the smoke and he goes in and nobody can see what he's doing. And he does his shit. So we were up in Shawjoy. Johnson wasn't with us yet, and we were running an IED on Highway 1. And to the north of us, like behind us, there was 5 miles of traffic backed up and 200 people 150 meters away just watching. And on the other side, the southern side of the cordon, same thing. Mm-hmm. And but we had actually some concealment. There's like some trees and stuff, so they couldn't really quite see. But behind us, they could see everything. And I was like, hey, we should probably pop some smoke. Well, we couldn't find the IED. The robot couldn't. We were mounted, so the robot couldn't find the IED. And so if the robot can't find it, that's when somebody has to go down and find it. So I get the bomb suit on, and I was like, with all these people watching, we should throw some smoke just to kind of obscure. Because if it's command initiated, we don't want them seeing things. And so I think we grabbed purple through the smoke, and we kind of wait for it to go, and it goes, and then it stops, and we're like, that's it. That didn't do shit. And we're like, dude, that's just marking smoke. And we're like, oh, well, the movies show it like totally like smoke up. And we're like, oh, that was stupid. So we just went and walked down there. But yeah, we're like, the fucking movie showed it like totally smoke up.
Take your helmet off.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, that was dumb. So I think the most impactful part was when he pops smoke and walks down on the IED. So turns out there's another buzzkill there, Stuart. It doesn't actually work that way.
Oh man, that's two inaccuracies.
Yeah, we found 2 inaccuracies in our locker. All right.
If you're gonna run away from a detonation, run backwards. That's the number one piece of advice I'm giving everybody.
And if you're going to use smoke to cover your movement, make sure you use screening smoke, not marking smoke.
You're going to die comfortable.
Yeah. Die comfortable, exactly.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
What about the
Russ?
sweet wagon? What about the...
Well, go ahead, guys. So what's up, Sean?
Oh, the little buggy that the wheel broke and he walks down there?
Oh, I was just going to say, what about the little... Yeah, that's pretty funny part too, you know.
That is pretty funny.
Hold on,
Right,
we have to go fix the buggy.
right in the beginning.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that's a reason to walk up on a bomb for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
So,
god.
that was
Little did we know it was a prequel to the Avengers because of that Hawkeye and Falcon
Yep.
before they became superheroes.
They're both in that.
Yep.
Wow.
Where do you think they learned all those skills? EOD school.
That's right.
Coincidence? I think not.
Oh man, you guys are too much.
Sean, did we ask you your favorite part yet?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you was first.
Okay, I was making sure.
I just had a second one that came to my mind, you know. That's pretty good too.
You've got so many favorite moments.
So many. For me personally, it's when they suddenly become special forces snipers. That for me.
Yeah, totally.
Did they save an SAS team?
Oh, you're right. It was SAS. Yeah, they were British. Yeah.
I didn't know getting off base to go to brothels was that easy. Remember that part?
I do remember
Where
that.
he just sneaks off base and
walks right back on like,
yeah.
What are you doing? It's like, hey man, ever heard of Bergdahl? You will.
Yeah.
Too soon?
Oh, yeah.
Too late?
Too late.
I'll allow it.
Sure.
Yeah, Stuart was in that unit, so he's the final judge whether that's appropriate.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Nice. Same brigade, not the same battalion. Use the 5-0 worst.
5-0 worst. Nice.
All right, well, guys, thank you so much. This has actually been one of my favorite. Actually, it is my favorite live episode we've done so far. It's just really informative. You know, a bunch of unique viewpoints, some faces I have not seen in years. Mario, Sean, I see all the time. Russ, we used to go shooting all the time. But anyway.
Yeah, we're pretty much special forces snipers.
Basically, Russ and I are way better shooters than we ever were in the military.
Yeah.
That's all. Basically, Navy SEAL sniper rangers.
Yep.
And but again, thanks guys for joining us. Like, thank you for offering your viewpoints.
Sapper tab too, then?
Oh, I don't have a sapper tab. Yeah, no, just super special forces sniper ranger. Airborne. Yeah. No sapper. Sorry. I got out too soon. It wouldn't fit on my sleeve. So.
Nice.
But yeah, thanks guys for joining us. Yeah. Thanks for spending your Friday evening with us. To all our listeners and watchers, thanks for joining us and sitting through this. If you have any questions specifically for any of the guys, Sean, Russ, or Mario, feel free to send us a message or put it in the chat, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer it.
Yep. Hey, and if anybody's listening to, we're EOD is recruiting pretty heavily right now. So
what's the bonus?
It's tier 10 bonuses. I think E4s and E5s are getting like $75,000 max. Yeah.
And you actually have an American.
Yeah, American. It's tacos.
75,000 peso bonus.
I'll take the taco option.
Come join EOD.
You'll
have a blast, I promise.
Oh, see me running, keep up.